Good evening. It's Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. I'd like to open a public hearing at 7:10, or probably a little closer to 7:15, regarding a local law to amend Chapter 180 of the City Code regarding signs. And we will leave this public hearing open for 5 minutes. Peter, will you let us know if somebody on the line would like to, yeah, if anybody would like to weigh in? No, yeah, no, it's.
Let's go. Too much wall. So Eastfield need a new roof? Mayor?
Does Eastfield need a new roof?
Yeah, it says right here, I don't know what you get it. Let's see what we got right here. Right, then, let's see.
Not
DPW ordered, others contracted by $7,225 for installation of new roof on Eastfield Pavilion.
Yeah,
Pavilion.
the pavilion.
Pavilion?
The picnic pavilion.
Oh, okay,
That's-
all right.
Yeah, I think the roof is in good shape in the field house. It's the making sure that the asbestos and windows and other things that we can revitalize
I don't
it.
think there's asbestos in there because the paint is so bad.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, you gotta have really. Okay, so you can shine it.
Yep, it's 7:20.
Yes.
Why don't we can, let us, if there's no comment, we will close the public hearing regarding the local law to amend Chapter 180 of the City Code regarding signs. And we'll open the public hearing to be held at now 7:20 to add vehicle and traffic section 208-22, section 16, parking prohibited on certain hours on the east side of Platt Street from Warren Street to the Warren County Bikeway between the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and to amend and add vehicle and traffic section 205-58, parking prohibited at all times, to prohibit all on-street parking on Goodwin Avenue for the entire length of the street on the north side due to limited access for emergency vehicles. This is a recommendation from the Board of Public Safety. We'll now leave that public hearing open for 5 minutes.
Construction or is somebody trying to get in the door over here? The answer is yes.
It's a trick. Good evening. Okay. It's now 7:25, or a few moments after. We'll close the public hearing on both vehicle traffic section 802-22, schedule 16, and also the vehicle and traffic 205-58, parking prohibited at all times on Goodwin Avenue. We'll close that public hearing. And want to remind everyone that our public hearing regarding our water and sewer and our general fund budgets is still open. Will remain open for 2 more weeks until we have the current plan is to vote on the proposed budget on November 26th at the council meeting. I've given you all fresh copies of the budgets. So you should have received also today a press release this afternoon indicating the final changes that we've been made to the proposed budget now in front of you. The changes include the final numbers for our senior retirees' health insurance costs and also the removal of a 2.2% property tax increase from our general fund budget. I want to begin by repeating my thanks to the dedicated group of people in this painstaking and important months-long process of creating this budget document, the members of the Common Council, the Budget Officer Chip McTiernan, our department heads, and our Controller Mark Powers. I commend their joint stewardship of the city's money. I want to give special thanks to Councilman at Large Clark, who in keeping with Glens Falls' historical practice for councils at large, shepherded the discussions and kept the process focused and moving forward. The end result of the hours of scrutiny, discussion, and tough choices has led to a clear success. I'm confident enough in the strength of the city's finances and in the soundness of the budget that we are presenting, and I'm requesting no property tax increase for the year 2025. This is not a decision taken lightly. This 0% property tax increase will be the first in more than 20 years. I'm convinced that the budget we are presenting justifies it. We can all take pride in the work that we have done together. As I noted earlier, there are 2 final edits in this proposed budget now in front of you and on file in the city clerk's office. You'll find an increase on the expense side of $381,654 in the senior retiree health insurance costs. This is the best result of negotiations between the City Human Resources Director, Judy Gillow-White, and our insurance providers. You'll also find a decrease of $249,878. So let me say that one more time. $249,878 on the revenue side. This is the effect of the removal of the 2.2% property tax that was included in your previous budget drafts. With these changes, the projected budget gap for 2025 is $2,245,637. To add perspective on this, the 2024 budget gap was $2,074,552. As of October 1st, we are on track not only to release that assigned money from our fund balance, but also to add an additional $1.3 million to that fund balance if the year was to end in October 1st. Of course, the year is not ending in October 1st, and it will be a while before we realize that fund balance change, but that is where our current monthly assessment of our current 2024 budget is. In each of the last 8 years, none of the assigned reserves has ever been used, and we've added to the fund balance yearly. The numbers show clearly that the city of Glens Falls is fiscally responsible, financially sound, and principled in our planning. I'm confident that at this time next year, we'll be able to report a 9th consecutive year where the assigned reserve has been released. In closing, let me say that I listen to and take advice from every member of the Common Council. But as mayor, it is my responsibility to consider the best interests of the entire city, every person, every family, every taxpayer, and every ward. I believe that the residents want a 0% tax budget, and that is what I present to you tonight. We'll now leave the public hearing open.
Can council respond to any of?
Absolutely. Yep, you got two
Because you
weeks of public hearing, but sure.
So what I'm seeing since I've been on this council is that we are presented with budgets that involve a large deficit, and that the response from that is that it's okay because last year we had a big deficit and we came over clean. So to me, this is something that shows there's something wrong with our budget process, because we're either A, not really getting down to what the proper revenues were, or B, we're overstating what our anticipated expenditures will be. Because this is just, we're saying we're taking in, for expense next year, $25,445,684.75, but we're, that's what's outgoing. And incoming, we're identifying $23,257,818.26. And every year it's been like this. Not that it's necessarily off by 2,187,000. It's been working up to that number. Like, it seems like it started $1.5 million-ish. It got under 2 million, and now it's over 2 million. And it's interesting to hear the term fiscally responsible when we're saying that every year we're projecting to take in less money than we spend. To me, either we're estimating something wrong, and then the remedy to that would be, let's go through this as we're doing the budget process and look at what we had for plan and then match that up to our actuals. We don't do that. We don't do any kind of thing about looking at what we're doing over a long term, projecting things and having that conversation. So we just had a meeting, just for people who may be listening, about how we're looking at, taking some of the money that we have off to the side in the general fund and investing that in something so we get a little bit more money based on this that we are, these funds that we already have. This is something that Diana brought up a year ago, and we met with people, and it was very, interesting. And in that, they were talking about different things that they would look at, a 3-year cycle, 5-year cycle, 10-year cycle. And I think it's, for being truly fiscally responsible, we should be looking at setting a balanced budget and sticking to the budget. And if we're finding that something is wrong with our estimates year after year, rather than saying, I'm comfortable that we will make up the shortfall we should know why, and we should be able to communicate that to the taxpayers of the city of Glens Falls. So I'm feeling like it's another process where we've, in the past, not followed our charter. In the past, and this year we're following the charter, we're hitting the dates. And I'm grateful for that. I was, chagrined previously that we weren't following it. I just, to be truly fiscally responsible, I want to know where the money is that is going to pay for this. I know what it's come from in the past is if 3 things have been identified, milder winters where we didn't have to commit as much money to snow removal or into our heating. So that gave us a way of, and then another thing is that we have several grants that we're getting some things paid back on. So we're getting some money in that way. But I don't see it tied to fact-based analysis. And that is what we're trying to commit with 3+1, or I believe the name with it, is that they're going to give us tools to do this facts-based analysis. I just would like to see a commitment by the city to get, in the same way, fact-based on what our revenue is, and if we're missing the mark on it, why? And fact-based what our expenditures are. When we go and do our budgeting, we have different departments saying they're gonna do this kind of thing with this kind of budget, but then we're not really looking at, did they do that in this time? So I would like to see that as something in the ongoing budget process for future years. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
If there's no other comment, then we will keep that public hearing open for 2 more weeks. And we will open up the common council meeting. Welcome. It's Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, it's 7:30, and time for our regular session of the common council meeting. We begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I apologize, in my notes, I don't remember. Does anybody remember whose turn it might be?
It's in the
Draft.
minutes. It was me last
Who was you last time? So it would be Councilman Clark. Please lead us in Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we open up the common council meeting to public comments. Anybody like from the public who'd like to address the common council, please come forward, identify your name and your address, please.
Chuck.
No insurance business.
Oh, no, sir. Good evening, I'm Chuck Gaughan. I'm one of the owners of Associates of Glens Falls on Glen Street. We own 2 buildings in Glens Falls. I've sent emails to each of you recently regarding the parking enforcement activity that's been going on. And again, I'm not disputing the tickets. I've received a number of tickets for overtime parking. But what I am wanting to make the common council aware, and if this is not the right venue, then you can let me know. But it seems like the enforcement is, and again, she's doing her job, I get it. I just don't feel that the enforcement is necessary. I feel there's an overabundance of parking. Today, for example, I got a ticket. I had a number of meetings in the office and I didn't get out to move my car. And I walked out at I had a ticket from 1:46. I walked out at just a little bit after 2, and the parking lot was, basically 3/4 full. So I just feel that the city is missing the mark, and I want to make it aware. I feel that there's plenty of parking, and I'm in town from 6:30 in the morning to 6:30 at night, and I have an apartment on the third floor of that building at 220 Glen where my daughter is living, so I'm downtown often. If you walk Glen Street, you walk any of the side streets, I feel that there's adequate parking throughout the day, and the parking lot in Elm Street is very rarely, other than on a Friday evening, for the events that are going on, is very rarely full during the day. So I just question the reason behind the active enforcement, and would ask the city if it is going to continue. The question is, why? From a standpoint, if there is sufficient parking, why is enforcement necessary? Number one, and then number two, if the city has considered offering the workers of downtown passes as an idea, to create that. I don't think, in my view, enforcing of parking time limits is when you have an issue of difficulty finding a parking spot, and I don't think there is that in the city during the weekdays. And the other side to remember is that I can give you some colloquial examples. The most of the downtown businesses are like ours, where people are still working on a hybrid schedule. We have 30 people that work in our office on any given day. We have between 10 and 12. And I think if you multiply that out among the downtown businesses, it would probably be similar. So I think there is fewer, on a daily basis, fewer people parking. And even with all the construction that is going on throughout town, it's very, very rare that it's difficult to find a parking spot in the community. So I just would love any feedback that the council may have for that, for the reasons behind the enforcement. And then if there is consideration that can be done for the folks that work downtown to avoid getting as many tickets as been happening. So, any questions for me?
I've heard from people in the first ward on Church Street and on Platt Street. And they're not happy either, so.
Sure.
All this went before the Board of Public Safety. And they made, because these streets are narrow, Church and Platt, and I can understand why they did, because they might not be able to get a fire truck done. So, and the other ones, I couldn't tell you, but I did tell the people that, at St. Mary's, that they can go right to church parking lot if they want, but they didn't want to hear that either, so.
I have a question for you. So on the days that you don't get a ticket, is it because you're going and moving your car just from one spot to another spot, and the same with lot?
Yeah, I mean it's been that in our I've been we've been at Associates Glens Falls downtown since 1978, and I've been there for 28 years, and that's pretty much what everybody in our office does, is they'll go juggle cars during the day. I personally am in and out a lot during the day for appointments and things like that, so that's why I can drive in and out. But there is a lot of that goes on among the businesses there within that Elm Street lot, of people just going and swapping their cars out. And then there's other days where I may have been there for more than 3 hours and I don't get a ticket. So I think it's just a matter of when she's doing her rounds. And again, she's doing her job, she's pleasant, she's nice, and there's no disgruntlement over what she's doing. It's just
It's
the
more
fact
of a
of
question about what the intent is of patrolling for parking and maybe not offering other possibilities of places. So my understanding from reading different parking studies is that the focus from pursuing limits of parking is to free up parking in the downtown core business district. So
correct.
where you're parking is
The core.
in the core.
Smack in the middle. Yeah.
But we're also not giving opportunities for multi-hour parking outside of the core district, which was one of the suggestions from the parking studies. was, hey, you know, you can't park here, but if you walk a couple blocks, here's where you can park and you don't have to move your car. And we were doing that, doing some work with that in the special projects committee, and having a difficult time coming to get these different parking studies and people's philosophy in line. And it has since moved on to the comprehensive plan to look at this topic of parking, because I believe there's 3 different studies involved with, since we've had parking structures constructed in the building, to look at the topic. So as many people who say there's no parking problem in Glens Falls, there's as many people saying the parking in Glens Falls is terrible. But I think it's because mostly people feel like you're not paying attention to when there's a hockey game and the hockey team's very successful, or that there's, you know, basketball or you know, tournament at the arena. We want to see the arena being used at a high level, but we also want to be able to have business owners know where they can park and their staff can park. And you know, we want to have restaurants that have their staff have a place to park without having to move in the middle of a shift.
Correct.
So this is the kind of thing that we were working on there. We're hoping to get something. I hope we can work on something for some relief to allow parking during, you know, business hours without enforcement of 3-hour or 2-hour. I think it's the default is 2 hours.
It is outside, and it depends on where in the city corridor you are. There's certain areas, certain small lots.
I think there is like
it's an amalgamation of 40 years of disjointed parking structures. And the only reason that we started enforcing in the first place is because of the complaints of the business owners throughout Ridge and Glen, who are very upset with us and think that we're not doing enough enforcement because there are people parking, and their study showed that there are people parking that are clearly working downtown, that are parking on Glen and throughout the areas that are not paying attention, and their customers can't. So Ben's exactly right that the subcommittee started to meet on it, started to actually identify streets on the outer corridor that we could make and say permanent, and say, Chuck, how many employees do you have? For, I don't know, a few hundred hours a year, we'd give you cards and they'd have a specific number, say on East Notre Dame or West Notre Dame, so that your employees could park there without fear of them getting tickets, so that we're opening up our downtown so that we could. I do appreciate that you're saying that only that parking lot that you're getting a ticket in is only 3/4 full, but it hasn't been that way. And as a matter of fact, many complaints that started us to enforce this again were coming from business owners right next to your building that were saying, people are parking all day long behind my business and I can't, we don't have room for my customers. We have other businesses that say there is no parking problem because they were fortunate enough to, when they bought their buildings, to buy a parking lot for their buildings, right? And we know that the bank is working very hard to ask all of their employees to not park in the Elm Street lot or in the South Street lot. We're about to lose the South Street lot, right, to development. There's 97 spaces that are going to be disappearing as of January. And so the need for parking for customers in businesses and the need for employees to park is going to grow. And I think we're going to see it significantly. And again, there was some, they were working on it. The subcommittee was making progress on it, and then disbanded. The chair of the meeting couldn't participate anymore. We are asking the comprehensive plan committee to form a bit of a subcommittee. One to talk about zoning and possible zoning future, and then the other was parking. So I do appreciate that, and we're also getting using some of our ARPA money to pay for a new system in our parking garage, so that again, anybody could be able to park there. We know that there's 200 spaces empty at any given day,
Right.
and that we'd love to have somebody go and say, for the first hour and a half free, or maybe we find a way to get a card, a special card for an employer to say, can you give me 5 spots, and just enough to get you to pay for a card so that you can park there during the day and allow for customers to be able to park on Glen and Ridge and in the downtown area. So I did pass your notes along to the Board of Public Safety. They definitely have gotten many complaints on both sides of this. We understand there is no easy solution. I do appreciate your articulation of the issue. We don't disagree with you. And it wasn't just 3 studies. There have been 5 studies of just your parking lot behind your building in the last 50 years, which, remember, I had a meeting with you 2.5 years ago. And I said, we have a parking issue. We need to build parking.
Yeah.
And people that are real close to us, right, friends of ours, who said, don't build a parking garage here. We don't have a parking problem.
Yeah.
We do, don't we, though? We do.
Yeah, I would still disagree on that, and in terms of that back parking lot from the projects that have been going on.
Yeah.
Again, you can still find, and we can agree to disagree, but
Yeah.
I'm there day in and day out, and
Oh,
I just see
I'm in agreement that
Yeah.
there's spaces there.
there's spaces.
Yeah,
So
but
I think there's solutions should be granted for the people that are working and in the city.
do you
day in
think
and day
that,
out, so.
do you think the city should have pay for parking for employers to have employees park? You think it should be a burden? Because there are neighbors of yours that have suggested such a thing, that we should find and pay for parking for you, provide parking for every employer that is downtown.
So my personal view, I was always against, that a business would have to pay whatever, $100 an employee for a year's worth of parking. Sitting here saying we pay taxes on our building. If there, and again, I'm going to say after 30 years, on a majority of the days, that parking lot, you very rarely, or even if you have to park on Hudson, it is not difficult to find parking in Glens Falls. I've never had to circle blocks time and time again in 30 years. So I'm going to always firmly say I don't think that there is a parking problem in downtown Glens Falls for people to park. But I'm at a point now with my people, because they're taking their time, and it's a chance for them to get up and away from their desk and go out and get some exercise and fresh air and just decompress to move their car. But if they can have a parking spot and they don't have to worry about it, because it is a topic, and it is a topic when we're interviewing employees that are, potential employees, and they say, I hear there's a parking issue in Glens Falls, and I have to say there's not a parking issue in Glens Falls. You'll be fine. So I do think I would be now at a point of saying, if we could have a sticker and pay $100 an employee to do that, I would do it now as the employer. But I also disagree. Again, I've got 20 less people on a day-to-day basis, because we're still hybrid,
Right.
and that's the way
So
our
your
business
needs
is.
going to grow.
No, I think our need is less than it was pre-COVID, because we have people that are working in town now 2 days a week, at home 3 days. So they're coming in. So on any given day, we're at a third of our staff. So there is less demand in the parking is what I'm seeing, and I think that's going to continue. I don't see that, and certainly in our business, in the white collar, other than a bank or the restaurants, I don't think you're going to have as much parking. The apartments are going to add stuff, but again, there's enough on the street. You guys have striped parking spots all the way down Hudson, and Ridge in there. So I think there is sufficient parking, and people, as the city develops and you've created a more walking city, people are okay not pulling up right in front of a store to go in. And in fact, you would, as a city, I would think you want to encourage that, because they stroll down the street just as they do in Saratoga. We don't want to emulate Saratoga, but the reality is, people, when they go to Saratoga, they know that they're going to have to walk. And I think that's what's happening in Glens Falls as well, because you have now a bigger restaurant corridor on South Street and then down onto Ridge. So I think people are used to it. So
you.
I don't think you'll have problems of people walking a block or two. So,
When you're talking about permits for your employees, does it matter to you if it's not right outside your door in the Elm Street lot, or if it's, as Councilman Lapham was saying, on the maybe outer corridor where they'd have to walk a couple blocks?
yeah, I think it's either we have people that are parking over on the other side of Maple to avoid this now, so that's not necessarily a problem, but I just feel that if you had a downtown employee parking and where they could park as close to where they work as possible. And again, I will just say, when that Elm Street lot has empty spots on a regular basis, to me that is saying that we don't have a demand issue. Now, could change, but I would say if you're a downtown worker, because let them park where they are if there are open spots. It could be on Glen Street, it could be, in certain sections, there's not a lot of traffic that happens in businesses from the old Continental building to Glen. There's always spots on both of that section of road from the up bay towards the Travelers building. So.
The city clerk's office does sell permits too for Exchange Street, Warren Street, and Ridge Street lots too.
Yeah.
But it
If
doesn't
that helps at
guarantee
all.
the spot.
No, but
Yeah.
if that helps at all as far as timing. that's
And
all.
Correct, but those lots definitely get full
Right.
those get full because they're smaller spaces. They're,
Yeah.
yeah, so I just wanted to bring it to the attention and to consider it, so.
I would say also that I work on a hybrid schedule in Albany, and there's a lot of city-owned surface lots in Albany, and the state employees would purchase something to park on those lots. I don't think that's something that we really want to get into, in Glens Falls, but maybe that's where we end up. But one of the other things in Albany is that there is clearly nearby. I walk half a mile in the morning and in the evening to go to and from where I'm able to park on the street for free. And I think that if we offered that to most employees, where they didn't have to worry about getting ticketed because they're parking during the business hours away from the center business district, I think we could get a pretty reasonable accommodation for most of the downtown employees.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I am a policy holder for. Jim Wilson.
Well, thank you.
Is that why I didn't have any comments and avoiding the appearance of a conflict of interest?
Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing anybody else here in the public. Peter, do we have anybody online? Committee reports. Councilman Clark.
I have no.
Councilman Donahue.
What's your?
Committee report? Any committee report?
No, I thought it was going to be yes or tomorrow, but that's not working out. It's the 18th now for sustainability.
Okay. Thank you. Councilman Lambert.
No, I just door.
He knows.
He knows now?
Yeah, he knows.
Thank you, Mayor. The Personnel and Labor Committee continues to negotiate with the city's CSEA union. We've made much headway up to this point, but we're down to discussing salaries and health care, and I think we'll be there for a bit.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pom.
Yes. For recreation, we didn't meet this in between the last two meetings, I don't think, but a quick update is that we have received the drawings for both the Murray Street and Eastfield field houses. And those are going to be going out to bid very shortly. I think actually Murray Street might have gone out to bid today. So we have that to look forward to, that we'll be refurbishing the field houses in both of those parks. For building and codes, we did meet on the 4th, and we will be meeting again on the 19th. We're working on short-term rentals, as I think hopefully people are aware. We've been trying to get the word out. I don't know if you all got my email today, but I sent out an email just saying if you have received comments from any constituents or concerned stakeholders, please forward them to me so I can. The committee has been very interested in community feedback. So we started with a survey, we started with a public forum, we put it out in the paper, we were on WAMC, we've been really trying to put it out there that we're considering this and we want to hear from people. And that's really, that and research in collaboration with Warren County Planning is really guiding our approach. So at this point we have a working draft, it's not complete, but we're hoping to complete that draft soon and then put it out for a public hearing where again there will be opportunity for comment. At this point we are looking at restricting non-owner occupied or unhosted short-term rentals in our R1 and R2 and heavy commercial zones. And that is really because of the response we received from the community in the survey, in the public forum, and also from the Warren County Housing Needs Study. We are trying to make sure that we are leaving our housing stock in our core residential areas for the people who need housing, who want to live and work in this community. So that's, but again, we're in draft form. We're still interested in feedback from people. So again, if you've received feedback or if anyone from the public has feedback, please send it our way. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee reports, Councilman Lapp.
So on Wednesday, the 6th, the tech committee met, but we were a little bit short because somebody scheduled a meeting the day after a presidential election. Did not really put a lot of thought into the scheduling. So anyway, it was, I met with, so I was the only one representing the city. So I have a number of follow-up emails to have, but I'll give you just a high-level view of this. I will have some meeting minutes to distribute, and I'll put everybody on the council and the mayor on it as well. But we talked about some of the open issues with StoreTech and Orbital Fire. There were some quotes that StoreTech had sent in for additional cameras for the police department, parks, and the garage, so the parking garage and park, the band shell, and some portable ones that the police were interested in, where it was like, oh, maybe there's an event going on, let's get an eye in the sky there. And I've just got to follow up with StoreTech and Chip to just make sure. I'm pretty sure we were thinking about using ARPA funds to kind of get this all straightened around. And also I wanted to make sure that the chief was cognizant of exactly what was in that proposal, to make sure that it would be terrible to spend money and then have the police come back and say, oh, that isn't actually what we wanted.
We needed, yeah.
Orbital Fire, we were looking to see if they could provide us with something for a tabletop demonstration and for disaster recovery. So they had some proposals in for that. I think it's really important that if you look around just in the news lately, government infrastructure has been the subject of cyber attacks at like 100 times or 100% above what it was last year.
Okay.
So, a lot of these are like, ransomware attacks. So I just want to make sure that we're in a good place with that and that we know what we would do in the case of it, and they owe us it. So it's like win-win. They came to us about it.
Right.
So they were like, this is, contracted for you. I think we could also do this too, in terms of disaster recovery, doing the same sort of tabletop exercise, just so that everybody knows who's, a department head or any kind of stakeholders that work with the city, what we would be doing in the event of, some kind of disaster in the city, like, if we had some kind of blackout or something like that. So we have those conversations, and we also were talking about getting training for Microsoft Suite stuff, so SharePoint and all those things. Those are in our court right now. I'll follow up with Chip to see if we can respond to these in a timely fashion.
And Ben, do you have any idea of how long it would take if when you know, you get that list to Chip and he
Yeah.
meets with the chief and it is what they wanted, how long it would take for us to get an invoice?
I think they sent us a contract, so I
Okay.
think they're just waiting on us.
Okay,
So
great,
as
great.
long as there weren't too many revisions to be made to the contract, I think, and they seem to be motivated to provide this to us when they know we still have the bag.
One more for you. When orbital fire, when you think you have an understanding of what the emergency procedures would be regarding that, let me know,
Okay.
and we'll call in there's a county emergency
Yeah.
response team. Anne Marie, I believe her name is, she's fantastic. Met with her a couple times over the past 3 years. They go through a whole series of needs for the state
Yeah.
for the county, where the city would be on that. I know they were very helpful when we had the state of emergency with the heavy winds in July. And so let me know, and we'll tie that all in to make
Yeah.
sure that what you're hearing from orbital fire fits within what the county is thinking, and it meets the needs that we'd have. It dovetails, I guess,
Yeah,
is the best way,
absolutely.
okay? And then finally, do you know if you remember you and I spoke about the desire to have maybe some cameras that might have the ability to record speed?
Yeah, that was part
That's part of the-
that's part
oh,
of
thank
that
God.
proposal as well.
Awesome.
And that was also where I wanted to have Chief Smith's input.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you.
I was thinking, you know, as an initial point, that to put them near the schools as traffic calming and also potential revenue.
Yep. Schools and favorite cut-through streets.
Yeah.
And make sure that they could move based on the need of a high need of a street that might come or go, right, depending on the way people are. And so that's fantastic. Thank you.
Were we talking two, or we?
I think the proposal has like, here's a couple you can move around.
Okay.
For when you're doing the speed checking, I believe they were saying you don't want to move those ones around so much because
Every time.
So it might
That's
get
right.
a little too pricey for that, but, you know, we can, that's where I was like, this would probably be better around schools initially.
Awesome. That's
But,
great.
yeah,
Good work.
thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, first we have two on the voice vote. One is a resolution to approve the minutes of the October 15th, 2024 special meeting and the October 22nd, 2024 regular meeting of the Glens Falls Common Council as attached. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And two is a resolution to approve the clerk's monthly PVB report. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Under roll call vote, are there any items that the council would like to pull for discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to pull number 18.
Great. Any others council would like to pull? Not hearing any? We'll go to roll call vote. 3 is a resolution to adopt local law 2024 to amend Chapter 180 of the City Code regarding signs. 4 is a resolution to adopt local law number 2-2024 to amend and add vehicle and traffic Section 208-22, Section 16, parking prohibited certain hours on the east side of Platt Street from Warren Street to the Warren County Bikeway between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. and to amend and add vehicle and traffic 205, Section 58, parking prohibited at all times to prohibit all parking on street, prohibit all on-street parking on Goodwin Avenue for the entire length of the street on the north side due to limited access for emergency vehicles. 5 is a resolution to decrease A 23410-1000 Fire Department Personal Services by by $10,425.93, and increase A23410-2300 motor vehicle equipment by $10,425.93 to procure essential equipment for the new 2024 Pierce pumper truck. 6 is a resolution to increase revenue code A009999-A2626, forfeiture and crime proceeds by $5,238.40, and increase budget expense code appropriation A23125-4479, seize assets federal GFPD by $5,238.40. 7 is a resolution to increase expense code A781060-4487 by $1,300, and decrease expense account A45410-4364 cement work and cement services by $1,300 to pay for garbage bill for the city for the months of October through December 2024. 8 is a resolution to increase revenue account A009999-4089 ARPA by $21,356, and increase expense account A45142-2400 snow removal equipment by $21,356 for the purchase of a plow, salt spreader, and grapple for the DPW. 9 is a resolution to increase revenue code A009999-4089 government aid ARPA by $33,109, and increase following accounts A67210-4479 Eastfield other contracted by $11,000 to purchase a dog park fence A11490-4368 DPW plumbing and heating supplies by $8,309 for 4 garage heaters A11490-4368 for the DPW maintenance building by $13,800 for a new boiler room door. 10 is a resolution to increase revenue account A009999-4089 ARPA by $3,030, and increase expense account parks and other equipment by $3,030 for a Billy Goat vacuum and new chainsaw for DPW. 11 is a resolution A009999-4089 ARPA by $7,225, and expense account A671404479 DPW other contracted by $7,225 for the installation of a new roof on the Eastfield Pavilion. 12 is a resolution to decrease expense account A78170 by $1,000 street cleaning personal services by $31,636, and increase expense account A4511-4479 street maintenance and other contracted services by $31,636. These monies are to be paid for the invoice for traffic control for the paving of the city streets. 13 is a resolution authorizing community development manual payments in the amount of $12,145.22 to pay CT Mel for administrative and program delivery costs, for the CBG program to pay for legal notice and newspaper regarding publishing of consolidated annual performance evaluation report, and to pay Flatley Reed for lead paint testing and a home rehabilitation project. 14 is a resolution to approve reimbursement of the City of Glens Falls Entitlement Community Development Block Grant loan funds for rehabilitation client who's finishing up his payments on a project in his home and overpaid by $72. 15 is a resolution to approve encroachment permit for Corey Heyman, 32 Horicon Avenue, with a favorable advisory opinion from the Glens Falls Planning Board given at their November 5th, 2024 meeting for a curb cut at 32 Horicon Avenue to add proposed driveways presented for a new build, subject to the installation of said curb must be completed within 1 year of approval. 16 is a resolution to increase revenue code A009999-4089 government aid ARPA by $3,500, and increase A67140-4479 other contracted services by $3,500 to pay J&MZ Architects for Eastfield Recreation Building consultation. 16 is a resolution to approve encroachment permits number 72-24 through 80-24, based on approved layouts in compliance with PRO-AG regulations following the city standard requirements. 18 is pulled. 19 is a resolution that the Common Council approves proposal with Raftellus in the amount of $20,000 and authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement approved by the mayor. 20 is a resolution that the Common Council extends current contract with DCK Services LLC for 2 years at a cost of $4,600 per month to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement approved by the city attorney. 21 is a resolution that the Common Council approves the purchase from the Bobcat of Saratoga for the Bobcat Skid Street Steer Loader S76T4 in the amount of $88,895.19 as per state contract. 22 is a resolution A009999-4089 ARPA by $13,270 and increase expense line A11490-4428 building maintenance by $13,270 to purchase a new garage door and heater for the Dix Avenue building to house fire department apparatus. 23 is a resolution to approve the warrant. Do we have a motion for a roll call vote?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Large Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Donahue.
Yes.
Councilman Landry.
Yes.
Councilman O'Connor.
Yes.
And Councilman Lapple.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 18 is a resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with Lobella Associates, one of 8 respondents to the Crockwell Preserve Conceptual Design and Design Services RFQ CGF-RFQ-24-03 in the form approved by the city attorney. Councilman Lane.
Thank you, Mayor. I've tried to keep the council abreast on what's going on with the Glens Falls Swim and Tennis Club property through the Recreation Committee meetings and reporting when I needed to here to the council. I'd like to recognize Doug Thorne, who's sitting in the audience there. You can raise your hand. You're welcome to come up if you'd like to say a few words, Doug.
Sure.
Yeah, Doug's a perfect example, and we have some sitting on this council right now, of people who move to our community and bring an awful lot with them. I'll get your title all screwed up, but basically, Doug runs Upstate Agency for the Aero Bank Corporation, came here from Hudson, New York, was very successful in developing a not-for-profit down there that saved an historic opera house, I believe, Doug.
That's right.
If you tell me correctly. You're also the chairman of the Wood Theater organization here in town right now, and with a lot of arm twisting from Dan Hall, he's also the chairman of the Crockwell Preserve not-for-profit. Was very instrumental in getting us started and putting us where we are today. The city's been wonderful to us with allowing us to take advantage of some ARPA money to try to get that project off the ground out there by addressing things like wetland delineation, having environmental reviews done to make sure that the property was safe. What we're asking for here in this resolution tonight is to allow us to spend some ARPA money in order to get a concept and design to what we want to do. We've had all of the movers and shakers in the political world that have visited the site, from our state senator to all of our local assembly people, and they're very impressed with what we told them we'd like to do, and they think it's wonderful what we want to do. And at a meeting we had this afternoon, I made the comment, although Sandy corrected me, that the Crandall family gave Crandall Park to Glens, or sold the property to the city of Glens Falls a long time ago, over 100 years ago. And where it is today is absolutely positively phenomenal. And I would like my children someday to look back and say, my dad or my grandfather was responsible for what was a project that evolved into being something to the as great to the community as the Crockwell Preserve can be. So I'll let you add on to that, Doug.
Certainly. Thanks for giving me an opportunity. First, as Bob said, I moved here 5 years ago. I've never regretted it for a second. This is just a fabulous area, and occasionally, when you're here for a long, long time, you lose sight of just what a perfect spot this truly is. I'm happy to be involved in this project. I thank Dan Hall and Bob, and the mayor's been tremendously supportive. The quality of the responses we got on this RFQ to do this sort of this master plan was shockingly incredible. I mean, every one of them was really worthy. We went through this process. Pat Dowd was super involved, and it went very well. It was hard to make a decision, but we had we had great candidates. As Bob points out, we landed on Labella. I got tremendous confidence this is going to be a great project for the city, for Queensbury, for the whole county, for everybody. That, like Bob says, hopefully someday we can all kind of look back and say, geez, like we actually pulled that off and made it into something special. So love what you're doing here in Glens Falls. It's a great place to live, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. So this resolution is here. This is basically our step 2. Step 3, actually, we have an RFQ out right now to get the property cleaned up. It needs to be cleaned up for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons it needs to be cleaned up is that it is city-owned property. There's buildings on it right now that kids are breaking into, and there's broken glass, there's broken fences. Hopefully with this RFQ and with the ARPA money allocated to us, we can eliminate those things, get that risk that the city's taking right now off the table, and secure the property. So I just wanted to thank everybody in the council for supporting this project. I think it's a very worthwhile project for the community.
Thank you. Would you like to make that motion for a roll call vote, Councilman Landry?
I wouldn't, because I'm going to abstain.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Orchard?
Yes.
Councilman Donahue?
Yes.
Councilman Landry?
Abstain.
Councilman Palmer?
Yes.
And Councilman Abbott?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Old business, Councilman Clark.
I have none.
Councilman Donahue.
I don't think I can think of it.
All right. Councilman Landry.
I just had one, Mayor. In reading the local press, I know we had an incident with a dog bite down in Eastfield.
Mhm.
What is our policy in our parks in regards to dogs? Do they have to be leashed?
Yes,
They do have to be. Okay.
yes.
And
And,
that-
and for your information, that dog was brought into city court on a dangerous dog charge, and it was fully resolved.
Okay, thank you.
The dog was given the title as a dangerous dog that will follow that dog throughout its continuation. Whatever municipality the dog goes to.
Can we go with the dog now?
No, they're not.
Not the first one.
Oh, boy.
But I do believe they had to pay the fees.
They paid restitution to the victim for the injuries, and Judge Hobbs put restraints on the dog pursuant to the ag markets law. The dog must be on no more than a 6-foot leash when on public property. It must be with someone who is over the age of 21. Secure confinement with fencing in their yard. Muzzle on public property. Microchipping, spay and neuter. Those are all what can be court ordered under the ag markets law.
Thank you.
Did we have to amend anything when we started adding dog parks?
We're working on that right now. Actually, I met with Amy today, Emily, and Yvonne. We went through the parks and rec section of the code. We do have to make some amendments. We also have to make some amendments to Article 4 having to do with dogs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, those will come to the council probably in December. And once suggested changes will go back to the rec commission to their referral, and then it'll come back to the council and probably have to go to public hearing. Go for public hearing, like any change. Old business, Councilwoman Pump.
I wanted to follow up on the camera move request I had last council meeting, just regarding Crandall Park. Do we know if we've done that or addressed that?
We haven't moved it. What we've done is we have, I had a diagram created so we could look at any areas that aren't covered, and what we're hoping to do is add some, with Councilman Lapham's additions. We couldn't move any of the ones that are currently there without creating more blind spots in what those original were, but we've definitely looked at the whole park and what's not, right? Are we pushing people towards, now that we've got camera in this area, do we now know that they might go to this area? And so we are addressing it, but I haven't been able to move any cameras as of yet.
So the thought is not to move anything, but to wait till we get another camera? Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
to get another camera to add to any blind spots. First, we're identifying any blind spots in any fields.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah. Just because, as you know, the people keep doing donuts on the fields in Crandall Park, and it's just a shame because, you know, as you mentioned, there are people who have put a lot of effort into caring for that park, our city staff, but also the beautification committee, so I'm
That's one of the things too that we had in discussions on the technology committee, is making sure we had a camera for coming into any of the ingress egress parts of Crandall Park would have license plate
Sure,
readers,
yeah.
so that, you know, so that we have, to Councilman Donohue's point, a different remedy than we've had before.
Yeah. And then just in happy old business, it was such a nice weekend in Glens Falls. I attended the Chapman Wine and Chocolate event at the Queensberry Hotel. It was another one of those events where people come in, a lot of local neighbors and friends, but also people come in, and I overheard a couple different conversations. Wow, there was such a great restaurant we went to before this. There's so much to do in Glens Falls, and it's always nice to hear that. I also attended the Symphony's beautiful concert this weekend. And I say this every year when I go, when it's the symphony season, but for anyone who doesn't know, we're the smallest city in the country to have our own professional symphony orchestra. So lots of things to be proud of here with our cultural offerings.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Old business, Councilman Lang.
I was just curious, and I don't know if it was a function of the reporting or what, but in the recent reportage of the new property, or the properties on South Street that are under contract to be redeveloped, so like the Rite Aid property and property on South Street that had the Queensberry taxi. There was a mention of that the city was involved with it, and I wasn't clear that there was some city involvement to get these things together, and I don't know what those things would have been. I don't recall them being discussed in any of the committee reports.
Yeah,
or,
no, well, so the economic development director is certainly willing to meet with any new person who wants to buy a project and then try to help them with like.
I believe there
grants
is a
and stuff.
city, committee for community and economic development. There's a committee for it because I know that, for one thing, the transition plan for
EDA?
their ADA went through that committee, and it was Councilman Clark who was committee chair on that. So I just feel like there's maybe not as much information coming out from that gets shared with the rest of council.
Okay. Well, I certainly will make sure that when they have a meeting and they report. But in this case, the report is that it's under contract to be purchased, and that we've certainly spoken to the potential new owners of the building about financial opportunities, but nothing's been done. So there's nothing to report right now, but I do appreciate that certainly the Economic and Community Development Subcommittee could report out any new progress of those projects at Hogg. But I just want you to be aware that right now there is none, right? Other than the general offer that we would offer to any.
So it'd be interesting from my point of view to know if there's, for instance, any pilots being offered, or if there's anything that the city may be using as a sweetener.
Right.
So that was just my feeling.
I can tell you, as far as those properties go, there is not yet, but again, nobody even, it's, their contract is to purchase the property. They haven't done so yet. So we hope that they do that, and we certainly would like to help anybody grow their business in Glens Falls.
Yeah,
But I would,
that's, my area over there too, that's worked for.
absolutely.
I would think the mechanism would be through our LDC and IDA for potential financial whatever. If there's something, I don't know if it would come from the city per se. So
No, but you might know, at least I'm sure Jeff and Pat would give you updates on any projects that we're offering, and certainly could bring it back to the council. Certainly right, so I think, but just so you know, there is none, but I agreed that we should give you updates regarding those things. Okay?
That was my chief concern, was just making
I
sure
can
that.
tell you this developer has not asked for any financial assistance from the city on his last 3 projects.
That's true. But if they did, we can certainly let you know.
Okay.
Fair enough?
And it will come before the planning board. If you want to attend.
When they purchase. Yeah, again, when.
Right, yeah, because one of the things that, I think it has to go past zoning too, because one of the things that was being reported was a lower number of parking spaces than required by current law.
The planning board is the board that can relax the parking schedule, and so that would actually be addressed at planning board. And it's my understanding, as he's going to own both properties, that his plan for the South Street building, I think it's 42 to 50, I might have the wrong address. The parking will be at the Rite Aid site. Parking for the South Street apartments will be maintained at the Rite Aid site. And he's going to have enough parking at Rite Aid.
The way it was reported was that there was going to be an ask for some relief.
I'm not sure if that's accurate.
This is again because I'm not getting this information. You have information, Karen, that
No, I don't have it yet. It's just.
She's hearing the same story as
I know that it's under
yours.
contract, and I know that the architect is working with the Building and Codes Department to get in site plan review applications.
So that was something that we've had a building and codes meeting and hasn't come up in building and codes. So again, we're not getting
Yeah, I don't
information.
know that he talks about individual projects at that. That's something you could ask him to start reporting on.
Yeah, I will.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. New business, Councilman Clark. Oh,
yeah, thank you. Just going off a little bit, piggybacking on what Councilwoman Palmer said, our arts and entertainment, we had a busy weekend with the hockey, and I went to see 9 to 5 Glens Falls Community Theater. I tell you that organization puts on a heck of a production, and I would encourage anyone, if they haven't been to a production of theirs, to go, because these people they do an incredible job. We are very fortunate and blessed that we have a lot of talented people, and some of those people went to our Glens Falls High School, so we'll plug for the Black Bears.
Current high school students.
Yes,
in the
sure,
ensemble,
yeah. So, and the other thing I wanted to thank the mayor. Well, I mean, he was out of town, but I was able to speak at the Veterans Day ceremony, and I went to their breakfast with my family, and it was a wonderful time. And it's great to see my dad in the kitchen with my son cooking breakfast for veterans. It was a wonderful thing to see, and then to go to the ceremony and represent the city on Veterans Day was an honor, and I thank everyone for that. And we live in a great country, and we really owe it to our veterans because of that. So, and it allows us to sit here and have discussions like we do, and disagreements, and that's what makes this country so great. So, thank you.
thank you. Councilman Donahue, new business, sir.
Well,
hard to compete with that.
No, I'm just gonna tell that the sidewalk inventory finally came through. Tommy Gerard is gonna go on east side of McDonald Street and go all the way up to the bike trail. So, it paid off.
I told you.
I was
coming.
calling him all the time, I said, Tom, you gotta get there. Cause there's no sidewalk in half of it, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. New business, Councilman Landry.
You took all my thunder,
Yeah.
Ed. Two things. I'd like to thank our city controller, Mark, and our auditor, Alan, who recently spent some time with some of the council members to not only review our most recent audit, but to also give us a little insight on debt, which is something we all have to be concerned about. And I'm glad to see that we had that meeting, just like the meeting we had tonight. We need to be talking about finance a lot more. I never thought about it until tonight, but a finance committee probably is not a bad idea. So I thank both of them for doing that for us. I'd also like to acknowledge the mayor for going up to the county and advocating to get some occupancy tax money for the city. We need all the representation of the county that we possibly can get. I sometimes think that at the county level, our supervisors aren't heard, and I think when our mayor shows up, they all of a sudden start to realize that that we are concerned as citizens of the city, that we get our share from the county, and that the county recognizes us now as not that ugly stepchild, but that shining star who's come to be. So I thank the mayor for doing that. Lastly, I always recognize new businesses that came downtown. Up on South Street, there's going to be a new restaurant called Bastard Restro Bar, only on South Street because you get away with a name like that. But it's going to be an interesting concept where the menu will change and it'll represent foods from around the world, which I think is kind of neat for downtown Glens Falls. And then over here on 21 Bay Street on the Maple Street side, right across from Crane Park, a new restaurant called Bono Note, which will be primarily Italian food. So broadening our restaurant options in the city is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I saw an interesting number just recently, you never would have thought about it. It happened to be on the Saratoga Springs Chamber of Commerce website. And in the city of Saratoga, there's 143 restaurants. I'm not saying it'll ever get to that part, I almost hope we never do. But restaurant trade can drive a downtown community, and I'm glad to see those new people take and invest in our community, so thanks.
Thank you. New business, Councilwoman Palmer.
I had a constituent, actually, I think she's Mary's constituent, but she reached out to me just asking, first of all, are adults allowed to ride their bikes on sidewalks? And then secondly, just saying that, you know, she has felt unsafe a few times where she's walking on a sidewalk and someone will just come up really suddenly behind her, particularly on e-bikes. So I did send a email to the police chief just asking about our enforcement and things like that, but I don't know if other people ever get those concerns, but I think it's legitimate.
They don't obey law and order, they go through stop signs, red lights. And you're right, they don't tell you on the right side, I'm on your right side, or on your left side.
Yeah, they're supposed
They
to.
just whiz by you.
Yeah, they're supposed to, like, ring a bell.
But on the actual sidewalk, you're
Yeah.
not supposed to.
The only
That's what I'm saying. And she specifically said adults,
Yeah.
sometimes
Well,
little
it's-
kids.
I think the thing is, if you're in, you know, if you have a reasonable feeling of your safety, you're allowed to go up on a sidewalk in New York State. It's not something that's in the city level law. But that's what I've heard from Adirondack cycling advocates, who I think know about that. I can get
He's right.
I can get some information from them to, you know, corroborate that. Karen seems to be indicating that doesn't sound familiar to her, so
I
I'll just get some
always thought
information
you were
from them.
supposed to follow the rules of the road, But if, you know, an escape to a sidewalk for a safety measure, but I don't think that's what.
No, it's not when people are
Councilman
riding up behind
Right,
you. Yeah,
right.
I totally understand that.
But
No,
it makes
also-
sense what you
yeah.
said, if it's like an escape route to avoid a dangerous situation, but I think just people riding on the sidewalks is not allowed.
Yeah, so I don't know if we
I
can.
mean, little kids with their parents, that's
Yeah.
one thing,
Right.
but I've seen it too, yeah.
Yeah, so I think her safety concerns were legitimate, so I don't know if there's something we can do to
Sure.
step up that.
Speak to the chief.
I did get a message from somebody who wanted me to read a letter. This is really related to the planning board, but the request was, will you please read this on the record at the council meeting, so I'm going to do it. So it says, I would like this read at the November 12th Common Council meeting. Corner of Glen Street and Washington Patton project. I would like to remind residents and our local government of the importance of the tree coverage and the benefits it provides. An unencumbered tree commission is key to our urban forest survival. They, along with an arborist not associated with the developer, and the architect should be involved in evaluating a site so the foliage can be incorporated into the design. Preserving green space like these are critical. With the new construction, we need to be mindful of removal of mature trees and the impact they make on the neighborhood bordering these developments. Residents shouldn't have to go through all of this to have their voices be heard and considered. We need more people making these decisions. They affect all of our quality of life and our future. Glens Falls is known for its architecture and trees. We are losing both at an alarming rate. Development can happen and still include our historic homes and trees to preserve our history and what we advertise to draw people here. Lastly, I really hope that the brick house on Glen is saved. There really is no reason it can't be. I wish it could be sold to someone who appreciated the beautiful house it was and could be again. It is far from having to be condemned. It is just old and shouldn't be disposed of because of it. We will lose a true treasure of craftsmanship and history. Mr. Bonaccio is preserving the 3 buildings on Elm and South. Can't we demand that of all of our developers? Thank you, Angeline St. Andrews. So I'm just fulfilling her request to read that on the record. The other thing is I did just receive an email today from John Taflin from the county just saying that the county is still looking favorably on the idea of us applying for funds for LEAD from the opioid settlements, which they expect to be getting in. And I attended the soft opening of a business, Kitcha Vibe, and it was a really warm, inviting space. So to piggyback off of what Councilman Landry said, it's always great to see people investing in our city and opening new businesses. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman Lappin, new business.
Just a couple of things, just to piggyback on what Diana said about Kitcha Vibe. That is one of those locations which have been, very, the city's just had a real explosion of public art. And I think that it's a wonderful thing. People are like talking about what's your favorite one, and or what's the most artistic, what's the most beautiful. I think it's a great thing to see in the city, having these old kind of rundown looking places become canvases of some wonderful public art. Another thing that I wanted to mention was that I shaved my head, and it's like,
It looks good.
part of the reason for this is that a week ago something happened that the voters of New York voted to ratify Proposition 1, which was something that this council voted unanimously to support. The shaving my head is in response to people who are feeling especially threatened after the national election, people with LGBTQ identification, people who are not able to have access to abortion in their states. And this is something, in my particular class, that I'm not supposed to be as threatened by it. I have to remember that there's people who are in more dire straits about the national situation. And the shaving my head is a way of reminding myself of this. And that I just wanted to make that statement for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now open up the council meeting to public comment. If there's anybody who'd like to address the council, please come forward and give us your address. Not seeing anybody coming up. Peter, do we have anybody online? With that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.